Homeland Security Chairman Peter King preparing for his hearing on what he calls radicalization of Muslims in America, to some akin to Joseph McCarthy's 1950s communist witch hunt.
The terror threat is higher now than any time since 9/11 because of the radicalization. As Dennis McDonough said, that radicalization is coming from within the Muslim American community. This is a real threat. I want the American people aware of it, and I want to see also what we're doing to combat it.
This is the message that we want to say to Congressman King. Let this be hearings against terrorism, against extremism, against radicalism, and how it comes about, and not make it hearings against Islam and Muslim organizations.
So Peter King, represented to us, I think, a really interesting point in where Muslims are right now. And his rhetoric, I think, was denounced by people kind of across the board. So you had politicians, celebrities, activists, academics, who are all saying, this is ridiculous, right? The guy is basically vilifying Islam for his own personal needs. Our community is not in existence to spite anybody else, and as much as we want to create a space for those who love us, we want to also create a space for those who don't like us at all. And you don't get to that point by being confrontational, as you let your work speak for itself.
Latif will provide spiritual counseling and prayer services to more than 1,000 Muslim officers. He says he's excited to join such a diverse and respected department.
It's my hope that I can use this position as a means to educate not only the members of the New York City Police Department about truly what mainstream Islam stands for, but also the New York City community on a whole. And
I do a lot of work for the State Department at times, and we've done work with Homeland Security and the White House and these kind of things. But at the same time, as much as I'm seen as like an antidote to many things, I'm also still seen as a poison. And in the last year, this probably happened to me about 12 times, And it's interesting because now when I go into the detaining room, I know like most of the people who work there, and at times my international trips happen like a week apart. So it's like, oh, you're back again already, and people know me by my first name. And they'll ask me when they see my police credentials or my State Department kind of documents, or why were you traveling, and then they find out who I am. It's like, why are we stopping you, right? And I'm like, I don't know, why are you stopping me? And one time I sat down and I talked to one of these guys, and he was like, look, you're young and you're male and you're Muslim, right? And those three things right now all together are not like things that, are going to work in your favor. I was born in New Jersey, in Edison, and I am the youngest of 3 kids. I have an older sister and an older brother. And my parents immigrated from Pakistan in the 70s. And growing up, I would say we were taught Islam, but there weren't a lot of Muslims like around. I went to a prep school from kindergarten until my senior year of high school. So I interacted mostly with people who were not Muslim growing up. And my religious identity was definitely something that was there, but it was something that was pretty confusing, I would say. In my senior year of high school, I started to explore it a little bit more. Now I started meeting Muslims who were black and Muslims who were white, and I started to understand Islam outside of the context of like a defined Muslim community, and certain things that didn't make sense now were making a little bit more sense, and I felt more of an ownership over my religious identity. I never really had an inclination of going into the role that I'm in right now. And I think a lot of the roles that I'm in and a lot of the positions that I hold are things that kind of just came my way, you know, very unexpectedly. I think what was challenging in the beginning as well was there's no precedent to build off of. And as exciting as it might be, and there's like a lot of hype, oh, you're the first one to do this or do that, you don't have anybody to turn to.
He has a lot of guts in going into a field where the job description wasn't really specified from the beginning, and so he's really done a great job of adapting to that.
You know, we definitely have a vision and a mission statement. Our goal is to help define what it means to be a Muslim in an American context, and at the same time, you know, we're seeking to empower a generation of American Muslims via their Islamic identity. People are pretty much of every ethnic background, cultural background, every social class, you know, male and female, young and old, and they're at various levels in their religiosity. You have to be able to have like an expansive kind of vision that takes into consideration everybody's needs as best as you can. In many religious communities, you have people who are forced to kind of stringently fit into an archetype or a stereotype of what a quote-unquote good practitioner of that faith should be. And what we've found is helpful is, you know, finding what's inherently good within someone and seeking to empower them off of that, as opposed to using a rhetoric that's very harsh and not very understanding of just how people develop and how people grow.
I think what makes the IC such a great community is it really caters to everybody. So they're not looking for one type of Muslim or one type of person. You know, there we have religious, very religious people, we have not so religious people, but everyone is welcome and everyone can feel like they belong, and no one has to feel, you know, like they're not fitting the mold, so to speak.
We started to grow the model as best as we could. I think we definitely root most everything that we do, if not everything, in something that's authentic within our tradition. So it's not that we're trying to establish or create something new, but really give a more invigorating spin to our religion that encompasses people from all walks of life, whether they're Muslim or not, too. And, you know, within that, early on we had a lot of voices that said, because we were doing things differently, that, you know, perhaps you're being too progressive or you're being too liberal. And these days those same voices tell us, you know, that we're inclusive, and they themselves come and they let, you know, themselves encourage others to come too. I lecture in cities around the country and internationally, and within that I talk about things that are happening here, because I really believe we don't have communities like this pretty much anywhere.
I really hope that this is something that they'll replicate other places, because it's like there's this family atmosphere, there's this like brotherhood, sisterhood that's just going on, that's just fantastic.
Like, there is something about this place that is so welcoming and that is so home-like that it doesn't even matter who the people are to some extent. It's like that the place, and it's always a safe space for you, no matter where you are in your life or where you are in your 4 years here. And I think Khalid has a lot to do with that.
You know, people get intrigued when we try to utilize social media and other things as well to like get our words out there and our programming out there and like our ideas. So on Facebook, you know, we have thousands of people on our groups and fan pages, and like on my Facebook profile, and we use Twitter, we have a podcast, we use YouTube, and all in all it like helps to raise like awareness. And then there's a lot of engagement with the media, and that brings like a different notoriety as well.
Resonated in a more sincere way that allowed for people to really connect to it.
What are the core beliefs of Islam?
Yeah, I think fundamental values that...
How does his message play with Muslims? Let's talk to Khalid Latif. He's the Muslim chaplain for the New York Police Department and director of the Islamic Center at New York University.
We have to start to educate and engage, not proselytize by any means, but just let people really know what the mainstream values of Islam are. And we do that by initially starting to talk to one another, And then we started talking to people like outside of our communities.
Yeah, I think we just need to get into the habit of looking at people as individuals as opposed to archetypes or stereotypes. Just this idea that every person has a story, and we can begin to really humanize one another by learning each other's stories as opposed to thinking of one another by broader, sweeping generalizations.
Khalid likes to talk about, he likes to talk about the whole American Muslim identity and how we need to kind of find our place and figure out how we, where we want to be. And, I think this is the prototype for that.
Pretty sure I'll still be sitting right here if you came back in a few years. So, I don't know. I mean, I think we want to really try to build a model that then we can try to replicate elsewhere, and just see where that goes. Yeah.